This week's Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff's Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffsatlantamedia.com.
Welcome to another edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are talking today with Audrey Washington, who is a reporter with WSB Television here in Atlanta. Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning.
So I always like to start with just give me a little bit of a idea of what your role is at WSB TV, and then we'll talk a little bit about your background and what brought you here.
Okay, great. I am a reporter at WSB TV here in Atlanta, Georgia. I also fill in anchor from time to time. I'm mostly a general assignment reporter, so whatever is breaking, whatever is new, I'm usually put on that. And I usually report throughout the day. You can see me at 4, 5, and 6 usually. I also, my stories get posted to the website. So if you miss it on TV, you can always see it on WSBTV.com.
So you're kind of on a, 9 to 6-ish kind of schedule, depending on when things happen.
But sometimes you're, an hour and a half outside of Atlanta at 6:45 at night live. So
yeah.
Technically I'm those hours, but reality, I get home sometimes like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. It just depends on the day and the story.
Yeah. My wife used to work for another local station, and she once in a while would be like live in Dalton at 6:45, yes. and then you got to get back to Atlanta.
You certainly do.
And be back to work bright and shiny the next morning, right?
Absolutely.
So what was your path to Atlanta? Where did you work before you were here?
Before coming to WSB TV, I worked at NBC Connecticut, obviously in Connecticut. I was based in the New Haven bureau. I was there I believe I was in Connecticut for 3 years. It was a treat because I'm from Long Island, New York originally. So I was able to go back and forth to New York a lot and see my family, my friends. But while I was in Connecticut, I covered a lot of breaking news stories, actually really huge national stories. I covered the Sandy Hook school shooting. I also covered the Boston bombings. And so I just remember those particular stories very vividly. I was a part of the Peabody Award-winning team for the coverage of the Sandy Hook shooting. So I'm actually always just very proud of my team that day and how we all mobilized and got information out to our viewers. And that is the job of a journalist. And it was just a long day, and it ended up being different stories, obviously, that came out of that tragic event about gun control and school safety and mental health. Stories that I think weren't done to that level before. And so I always look back on that time, and I'm just, again, it was such an awful event, but I think such important information came out of that story. So, and same thing with Boston bombings. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. And it helped me grow as a journalist too. It helped me, think on my feet, react quickly, move quickly, learn how to work contacts better. Like it was just such a learning experience during my time at NBC Connecticut.
Both of the stories were incredible stories. That Boston story was such a, the search and where they found those guys and all of that was just incredible.
You know what, Mitch? What I remember from that, I remember a lot, but I remember, and this is something that I think a lot of journalists will understand, just that human connection with people. And that's one of the things that makes a good journalist, in my opinion, especially in broadcast journalism and such. I remember a woman walking up to me. It had to have been 5 o'clock in the morning, I think. And she walked up to me. She still had her number on from the marathon, still dressed in like running clothes and what have you. And she couldn't hear in her left ear. And her eyes were this big. And she said, "Do you think they'll let us finish the race? Do you think they'll let us finish the race?"
Wow. Wow.
Completely still in shock. And she was just she was by herself. It's just like, like those human connect, like when you see the gravity of the moment. I also remember there's a restaurant right down the street from where the actual bomb went off. And I remember seeing people's wallets, their purses, like that is how quickly people ran. You know what I mean? Like just people's personal effects just everywhere. So that always just kind of stayed in my brain. And I used it with my storytelling. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to let people know this is how tragic and sudden this was, and this is how it impacted people.
You just want to hug that woman and just not leave her until she gets some trauma assistance to help her, because she sounds like she was obviously, I'm sure she had somebody who was looking for her, worried about her, but sounds like she was just in such a mental place that she couldn't do it. Wow. So, strangely enough, not strangely enough, but I'm also from Long Island originally.
Oh, you never told me that.
Yeah, that's why we have these conversations. So I grew up in North Massapequa.
Okay.
Where were you?
I'm from South. I was about to say South Carolina. Oh my God. My parents are from South Carolina. I was so used to say my parents were from South Carolina, but I grew up in New York. I'm from Suffolk County, Dix Hills, Wheatley Heights area.
Yeah. Okay.
Wheatley Heights proper, actually. Very proud. It's interesting when I moved down here, and as you know, going from the Northeast to the Southeast is a huge cultural change and what have you.
Yeah.
Now in New York, everyone was like, you sound more Southern. And that's when I would always say, like, well, I was raised by two Southern parents. Down here in Atlanta, I keep hearing like, oh, I can hear the Long Island come out. And I know, I think you hear it when I say Long Island, home and school. I think that's when you hear it. And I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. So
yeah. Your accent is very subtle. I think unless someone was
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, God, when I moved down here in 8th grade. And I remember walking into 8th grade English class, and teacher said, "Hi, this is Mitch. He just moved here from New York." And she looks at me and says, "Say y'all." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like cruel teacher punishment." I was like, "What is a y'all?" And she'd be like, "Okay, everybody put your books up." And I'm like, "Up where?" And I'd be staring, but everybody puts their books down under their desk. I was like, "That's not up. That's putting your books down somewhere." Like,
right.
Yeah, that took. I mean, it took me. I don't know how long it took me to lose my accent. I mean, I grew up in New York, so
yeah,
from birth. Anyway, I don't get up there near as often as I'd like. I haven't been back to Long Island in years and years. But anyway, so WSB TV, I think, having worked with the station for a long time, has kind of a different way that it covers news than the other 3 stations do. How would you define that, or can you define kind of what the difference is?
Well, my news director, Suzanne, loves to say vintage WSB, right? We have this way, especially with breaking news, whether it's weather or a huge case and a verdict in a case or what have you, but we have this way of mobilizing. And WSB loves to put you at every angle. So most recently, there was a Spalding County deputy who was shot and killed while on the job in the line of duty, Sergeant McIntyre. And I was on a completely different story. And as soon as they got word, they they were like, just go to Spalding. By the time I got there were 2 other crews there. And then that was just at the scene. And then there was another crew at the sheriff's office. And then like, I believe another crew, at the hospital he was taken to. So we have this responsibility where we really value our viewers, and we want to make sure every part of the story is covered, whether it's difficult or whether it's a fun thing like a parade or whatever. We want to make sure every angle is covered and covered correctly with the right amount of sensitivity, and respecting that and understanding that in some cases this is someone's worst day of their life.
Right.
And so we like to keep a respectable like distance, or give people time. So we're not that news organization that's banging down your door. We're not that news organization that is not respecting your time. We're more so like, whenever you're ready to speak, we're here. And I think that's what gives us an advantage, to be honest with you. A lot of times people, I can't tell you how many times I've shown up on scene, or I've gone to someone's home when something awful has happened. And I say, hi, I'm Audrey Washington and they can cut me off and say, oh, I know who you are. Come on in.
That's great.
And I really think it's, for any journalist watching this, you really have to do the work. And it matters when you are respected. It matters when you are trusted. We work to gain people's trust. They have to trust us with their stories. They have to trust us with what's going on in their lives at the moment. And it's a huge honor. And you should never, ever take it lightly. So I think it's that, and I'm not the only journalist who feels that way at WSB. So I think that's why, how we are different, how we differentiate from the other stations. Not saying there aren't great journalists on the station, but it is our mantra. Like, it is something we truly, truly believe.
And it's funny because I've seen, coverage boxes sometimes where say, okay, we had team coverage today. And I think the record, I think one story I saw had like 30 boxes or something like that. I can't remember what the record was, but it's kind of funny to say, okay, we have team coverage and we have, 30 reporters and photographers, producers around Metro Atlanta covering this. It may have been I can't remember if it was a weather story. It's probably a weather story, right?
Probably weather, yeah.
Probably weather.
The only other time I've seen that during my time here is it's always weather, but covering Trump recently, like that, just scattered everywhere, doing every single angle and balanced too. So that's one of the reasons why you see so many reporters on some of those stories, because we are committed to being balanced. We're going to get every side of this,
Yeah, I think we had one of our Emory Law professors live in the morning with not George, who were they live with? Justin. Maybe it was in the afternoon. Justin, maybe? I can't remember.
Justin Farmer?
I think it was live with Justin Farmer, somewhere overlooking the jail or something. Somebody had found a spot like, oh, look, here's a deserted road that overlooks the
I think
the jail.
I found that spot, actually.
Okay. Credit to Audrey. There we go.
Yeah, I actually remember that because I pitched in the morning meeting. I was just like, this jail is actually in the middle of a very residential community.
Yeah,
and
right.
And the influx of press and attention that's about to come into this community, I really wonder what they think about it. So they're like, that's a great idea, Audrey, go do it. And so I was telling them about this spot that I found. So and it literally is right next to the jail, and these beautiful homes, people walking babies, you know what I mean? Like things like that. It's like, now
what's going
you guys
on
are
here?
in the center of the universe,
Right. So, I always kind of tell, PR folks and clients and whatnot, is that you have to look at how you pitch stories to WSB a little bit differently from how you pitch to other stations, and every station is different in some ways, but I feel like WSB is really different in how their choices of stories and what they cover and how they cover it. So I always tell folks to, I mean, obviously watch the news before you pitch it, right? And know the reporters. I mean, would you suggest if someone has a story, is it better to pitch a reporter directly, pitch the assignment desk, pitch a producer? What works better for folks?
I think if it's a broader story, like, hey, this restaurant that's, been in business for X amount of years, staple in the community, this president ate here, or this, celebrity ate here, and now it's closing after 50 some years. And this is the impact that it's going to have. I think that's something, a story like that, where it's more of like a broader community impact story. That would be a good story to pitch to the desk, to send to the desk. Not a long, don't write a novel.
Short pitch, right.
Right, but make it a meaningful pitch, and make sure to include, and the people at the restaurant, they're willing to talk, they're available to talk, blah, blah, blah. When it's more so personal stories, like something that affected you personally, whether it's a death in the family, or something going on with your housing, and you can't get any help with something happening on your property that the city owns, and you're going back and forth. That has something to more so send to a reporter, and email the reporter. No cold calls. No cold calls.
Right.
Those are the worst. And I usually, like, I've gotten calls right after my live shot, and I've gotten like just cold calls like, I hope you're not busy. I am actually. So I always tell people, just email me. Just trust me. Just email me. I'll see it. And that's the best way to get in touch with reporters. When it's a personal thing, make sure you have all your paperwork ready. Make sure it's a story that, again, like what you even said, watch our news. See the kind of see the kind of beat that these reporters are usually on. We have a political reporter. We have a more feature storyteller type reporter. We have reporters who are mostly in DeKalb or mostly in Clayton County. So pay attention to that, and think like, or mostly in we have one of the reporters is just a beautiful writer, and he usually does stories in northern Fulton County. So if you're in that area or you know something, like, pitch to him. So just really watch the show and see, where the reporters are usually based, and that gives you a good idea.
Well, it's probably worth mentioning. So you get Barrett Peterson, who I think is kind of the more feature. Feature. Tom Jones, more South Side, right?
Yep.
Michelle Newell up in Cobb, right?
Cobb County.
Gwinnett is Matt Johnson.
Matt Johnson, yes.
What else did you mention just now? DeKalb.
Brian Mims. Brian Mims
okay.
is one of our newer reporters. Beautiful writer, and loves. We were like, why do you want to go to Gainesville and Alpharetta, and that'd be like 45 minutes outside of Atlanta? But he loves doing stories there, and that's an area that has a lot going on. And it, they deserve the coverage. So he's usually in the northern part. Taisha is usually in DeKalb and South DeKalb and things like that. And I'm usually like all over the place, or doing like breakers and exclusives. So
how often, or if ever, do you get to actually do a story that you want, as opposed to here's the breaking news of the day?
Quite often.
Okay.
I would say probably it all depends on what's going on.
Right.
But usually they like my pitches because and I'm very passionate about it. Like, I'll tell them, like, we need to do this story, and we need to talk to this person. Most recently I did a story on Bishop William Murphy at the Dream Center in South DeKalb County when he decided to play 2 rap songs during service. And the story was everywhere. Like the video went viral. And I said to them, listen, we have to do this story. He hasn't talked to a news organization yet. And we have to, I don't even think some of the people in the morning meeting even heard of, some of the songs being played in there, but I had. And I was like, we need to get him on record to talk about why he did this and give him a platform to do it. And he was actually very appreciative. And I think we did a good job balancing it out because we had an opportunity to get him on record to talk about why he did it. Then we also had some of the people who were, kind of criticized him and were like, I'm not sure about this. Right. And I just think that was fair. But that's like some of the things that I usually pitch where I'm like, we have to do this story. I can get, trust me, I can get this person. I can get him.
All right. Cool. All right. So now we'll go to the kind of the lightning round. Don't need short answers for these. Don't need to get into huge detail, but so here's, as I said, the hardest question I always ask folks is, what's something cool or fun about Audrey that people might not know? And it could be a talent, a hobby, things you collect, anything like that.
Okay. I really enjoy anything live, right? So I've been getting back into watching live performances lately, so I'm very happy about that. I recently saw Alvin Ailey performers when I was in New York in December, and it's just something I love to do. So if it's anything like a live music or a live performance and any kind of performance too, like if it's spoken word or anything, I like that is just something I love to sit and listen to or sit and watch. Also, now I know this is going to sound a little, strange, but I love to cook. And this is I know that you don't understand, but this is a huge thing for me. I've been really getting into fish. And I'm so proud of myself because I always used to be the person like, I think fish tastes like the ocean and I don't like it and whatever, right?
Fish is great and it's so healthy.
It is. Okay. So, So I still don't like salmon. I still think it tastes like the ocean. I've tasted it prepared in all different ways. But actually, it's funny. I was at the Emmys last year and I think they served halibut. And I was like, what is this? To one of the producers next to me. She's like, I don't know, maybe cod or halibut. And I was like, this is good. And
I'm gonna go and make this. Yeah.
I'm gonna learn how to make it. So I have perfected this potato crusted cod fish that I've been making lately. I know this sounds lame,
that sounds delicious.
I'm actually really proud of it. Also, I like to cook for my coworkers and stuff sometimes. So I've been making plates, and the last thing I made them was my almost vegan baked macaroni and cheese. I'm not going to tell you the secret, but it is so good, and they know it, and they're like, I don't know, almost vegan. What does that mean? But it's fantastic. I'm thinking, Mitch, and I don't know if the powers that be at WSB will let me do it, but I'm like, maybe I should open up like a little, food truck in the garage at WSB. That won't be problematic at all. And sell my place for $10, right?
You got one of those old live trucks that they're not using anymore, right?
Great idea.
Probably got a bunch of them sitting there. Just cut a hole in. Just cut a hole in the side,
Right.
I mean, you don't use those big giant sat trucks anymore, right?
Right.
They're just sitting there in the corner.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. All right. I have a friend who opened this place called Egg Roll Boys, and she started as a food truck and then opened the restaurant. But gourmet egg rolls. Anyway, okay. So, last book you've read or the last podcast you've listened to?
It was a book called I think it was called How to Protect Your Peace. Yes, How to Protect Your Peace in like chaotic situations. So of course,
I may need to read that one.
Right. Shelton, I'm blanking out on his full name. It's a good book, though.
Yeah, I'll find it. Okay. Favorite local restaurant other than your kitchen?
Oh, I like Twisted Soul.
Okay.
I recently tried Serena Pastificio for my birthday. That's in Colony Square.
Okay.
It's like a Italian restaurant. I love it.
Is that in the food court area, or is that okay?
It's right next to the food court.
Okay.
And I really enjoy that. I love Italian food. So
all right.
I
Favorite favorite guilty pleasure?
Recently it's been listening to a lot of YouTube content creators and listen to their reviews of like Real Housewives shows. I literally can go to sleep listening to it. Like I play it and I just like close my eyes and it lulls me to sleep. I like.
I don't know if that's is that an endorsement or not?
No, but I mean, I like. I just I like hearing people's take on some of the shows. I've been I'm so embarrassed to admit this, but I've been really into Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Been really into Real Housewives of Miami. Yeah, so that's one thing. Also, I will say I love watching independent movies. Like on a Saturday afternoon. Like it is just with a snack. Oh, and if it's raining outside, oh, it's the best.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Favorite local getaway. Good place to go. Good place to go. And it could be Georgia. It doesn't have to be Metro Atlanta.
Good place to go. Oh, it is Metro Atlanta though.
That's okay.
The Westside Park.
The new reservoir. Yeah.
By off of Howell Mill.
Yep.
I love that park. I think the way it's designed with the beautiful, plants, the kind of plants that they decided to plant there are stunning. The trails are really nice, and then you get to like this elevation where it has a really nice view of Atlanta. I love that park.
Okay. And favorite non-work hobby?
Your non-work hobby. Well, I do Pilates, so I really like doing Pilates. And I just really enjoy. You could just find me like hanging out with my friends. I know that sounds so like but
that's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, and I love going to a good spa. I believe in self-care. So.
Do you have a favorite spa around town that you want to give a shout out
to? Infinity Massage on what is it, Peachtree or Piedmont? It's right at the cross section where there's like rooms to go and Haverty's right in that area. Yeah, it's right in that area. They are fantastic. Anytime I call, I think that I'm programming in their phone and they'll say, "Hi, Miss Audrey." I'm like, "Oh, hi." So yeah, I really like that.
That's always funny when they know your name when you dial the number.
That's always right.
Good. Although it's funny is sometimes I'll get calls from reporters, and sometimes some of the stations, I don't know if you guys do this, but they'll pass on the company cell phone to somebody else. Like somebody leaves and then somebody else gets that phone, and it'll come through on my phone, and it'll be like, oh, it's like, I know that person's not there anymore, but their name is popping up on my phone, and like the new reporter has no idea who I'm talking about.
Right.
So that person's been gone for like 3 years. They don't know. I'm like, hey, Steve, this is not Steve. This is Audrey. I was like, oh, okay, never mind. All right. Audrey, this has been great. We've been talking with Audrey Washington, WSB TV. Audrey, thank you so much for taking some time, and I'm hungry for some potato crusted halibut. My wife is the cook in our house, so I'll have to suggest that to her.
Yes,
she's always open for a new culinary opportunity.
Well, that's a great choice. Hell to try it.
All right. This has been another edition of our 4 Questions Journalist Spotlight. As always, tune in every week or two for a new episode, and go to the archives to find hundreds of others. Click that subscribe button. I'm only 99% away from actually making money on this thing, which means I'm nowhere near making money on this thing, but that's okay. And if you want our database of Atlanta media, go to leftsatlanta.media.com and click subscribe there. Until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks, Audrey.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mitch.
See you on TV.
Okay.